to Free Mama TV. Lauren Golden here, founder of the Free Mama. And this whole month, we are doing a series on successful freelancing skills, niches that you can apply to make big bucks and really become known for something in a certain industry. And I have my friend, student, colleague, I don't know what we call each other. We have a very beautiful relationship. Brittany Kramme is here with me today. And I'm so excited because she is my go-to person whenever I think about things related to real estate. Brittany, before we dive in, will you just give some context about how you got started in this industry and then kind of how your role has really changed and how you're serving people in real estate today?
Absolutely. So I got started back in real estate in 2014. I was a licensed assistant for an individual within a brokerage, and we grew our team and our business into a partnership. And then I started growing my family. And I realized that growing my family and the hours that real estate agents work, because my kids were going to daycare while I was networking and attending inspections and doing showings. But then at night, I was continuing to do showings and writing offers and doing open houses on the weekends. So I was like, something needs to change. So that is where I came across the Free Mama movement and community. And I was like, okay, how do I make a hybrid of real estate, what I love doing, but on more of my own terms? And I'm not always attached to my phone and I'm not always on call, that feeling of that hustling mentality. So that is where I started my virtual assistant and transaction coordination business, serving real estate agents specifically as a support role, kind of going back to my roots of a licensed assistant. But now I have gotten to the point where a lot of women have wanted to niche down into serving the real estate industry. And so I've started teaching them based on like the skills and the knowledge and the experience they already have. Like the real estate niche and serving it is not scary. It's not hard in like this foreign world. You really can translate and connect the dots and be the bridge between, real estate and what you already know. So I help women do that now.
That's awesome. And there's a few ways that you do that. And so let's talk about a few ways just right off the bat that people can serve real estate agents. And then can you kind of define what a transaction coordinator actually is for people who maybe aren't familiar with TCs?
Absolutely. So real estate agents, they're really busy. And more often than not, they're on the go and they're working from their phone. So having a virtual assistant or a transaction coordinator behind the scenes, it just helps take some of that pressure off their plate. Scheduling, setting up showings, that would be more on the virtual assistant side. Marketing, helping them create their resources and helping them make this cohesive branding look, because real estate agents are independent contractors like we are. So even though they work for a brokerage, they have their own look and feel and vibe for their services. On the VA side, you're more general admin, email marketing, scheduling showings, social media management, things like that. The majority of my questions I get is, what's a transaction coordinator? Which a transaction coordinator is a unique set of skills where you're handling more the paperwork, the specific contracts, amendments, addendums. You're paying attention to those contingency dates. When are inspections due? When is financing due? You're coordinating what time and date closing is based on the purchase agreement. It will have the date, but you are now in charge of like the communication between all the players in the game, is the best way I can describe it, where you're communicating with lenders, the opposing agent, the buyers and sellers themselves, keeping everyone on the same page. You are not negotiating anything. You are not putting deals together. You are not being the real estate agent. You are being the facilitator and the distributor and the communicator and making sure everything is moving forward smoothly. Everyone has what they need and that everyone's on the same page.
You kind of touched on a few right there in terms of skill sets of like, if somebody's watching this and they're interested maybe in real estate, or maybe they thought about getting their license and maybe they have some of the same hesitations that like you experienced of like maybe not having really great boundaries, whatever, but what are some of those skill sets? So you mentioned communication, like you're having to, communicate with different professionals as well as, home buyers or home sellers, perhaps. What other skill sets make someone a good transaction coordinator?
For transaction coordinators, the qualities, or I would say the personality type, is someone who's excellent at communication, someone who's fantastic at paying attention to fine details, because you are going to be reviewing the contracts to make sure that they're fully signed and executed. You have to know where all those little initials are and signatures are on a contract.
All the post-it it.
Yes. Yes. You have to be very good at calendar management in regards to making sure that your agent isn't double booked for closings and making sure that the inspections are scheduled prior to the inspection due date. So you just have to be really proactive, pay attention to fine details, good at communication. All you need is your laptop. I don't want to say even tech savvy, because a lot of this you can do within Google or Outlook, softwares that a lot of people have experience with already.
That's a great thing to touch on as well. Talk to me about payments. So my parents are realtors. I know you obviously have been a realtor, and it's interesting because unlike, our world in freelancing where we can usually charge it in advance or maybe charge, 50% upfront for our services, we have some control. A real estate agent doesn't get paid until after closing. What does that look like for transaction coordinators who are managing that deal? How do you typically get paid as a transaction coordinator? What does that look like?
So I would say the vast majority of transaction coordinators, they get paid if the real estate agent gets paid. They typically charge a flat fee per transaction. And that range is really anywhere from about $350 to $500 per transaction. And that kind of just based on your experience of how long you've been a transaction coordinator, what your systems look like behind the scenes, that kind of a thing. It also might depend a little bit on market to market, because real estate in California is a lot more expensive and their purchase agreements are like 45 pages long versus in Iowa or Nebraska, where I am, our purchase agreements are 4 pages long. And so it might vary a little bit in area, but that's typically the range. And even though your job, no matter what state you serve, is fairly common, that's about the average of what you charge. Now, some transaction coordinators, because you are an independent, you can choose how you want to run your own business, meaning some TCs will charge some kind of a non-refundable, like a processing fee. So when a new contract comes in, they might charge $50 up front, because that's where the kind of the meat and potatoes are. The majority of the work happens on the front end and the processing and things like that, which you can really streamline if you have the proper system set up. But if it falls apart due to inspections or financing or something changes, again, a lot of TCs don't get paid unless the agent get paid. So it's really up to you, but I would say the majority is kind of all or nothing. If the transaction falls apart, a lot of TCs are rest assured that that seller or that buyer will go on to either purchase something else or another person will come and purchase that property. So they're going to get paid for that address eventually.
I like that processing fee idea.
Yeah.
Little
Yes.
safety net. So talk to me about timeline. Like what does the actual work look like? Obviously, you've kind of got to wait for that transaction to come through to be able to coordinate it. It obviously probably depends on, how much you're working, depends on how many realtors you're serving in the market and things like that do change. But how long would you be working on one particular project, for example?
One particular transaction from start to finish. One, you have to understand that probably the typical timeline for a transaction to transpire on average is 6 to 8 weeks. Ish. Some of them are going to take 3 months until they close. And there are cash deals that happen as soon as like 3 to 4 weeks or less. So on average, a transaction transpires over the course of 6 to 8 weeks. And I would say a TC puts in about 10 to 14, like give or take. Again, it depends on your experience, your systems. A lot of that can be automated. There are a lot of TC softwares out there, TC Docs. Open to close. A lot of people use Airtable. Some use ClickUp. It doesn't even have to be TC related, but if you can really streamline your systems and your intake form and things like that, it can really shorten that window. So I would say about 10 hours, give or take, amongst those 6 to 8 weeks.
Which is about $30 an hour on the low end, which is pretty reasonable when you compare that to virtual assistant work and being a beginner at something. Let's start switching gears, because let's talk about real estate. Like people are always going to be buying and selling homes. Of course, we have different markets. We're coming out of like a really chaotic time. And I don't know, you could probably tell us a little more about what's going on, but let's talk about finding work as a transaction coordinator. What does that look like? I would say there's real estates everywhere, real estate agents everywhere, but where should someone start if they're interested in doing TC work? What would be like that first step? Not learning about the work, but like putting themselves out there as a service provider.
So as you mentioned, like real estate agents are everywhere, and it really kind of depends on your comfort zone. So I actually have strategies, like if you're more an introvert and you need the network behind your computer, there are strategies behind that. But also you have to understand that real estate agents are very community based. They volunteer a lot. They have marketing everywhere. If you look at your school gymnasium, if you look at events, if you look at like a summer of the arts festival, like people are going, like real estate agents are marketing everywhere. I've even told ladies where if a neighbor across the street lists their house, that agent's name and phone number is on that
On the
sign.
sign.
You could very easily, if you don't want to call them or text them, you could find them and find their email and just say, hey, I noticed you listed a house across the street for me. I just want to simply introduce myself and let you know that these are services I offer. If they're not the right fit for you, no problem. But if you know of anyone within your brokerage that does need them, please keep me in mind. Like, you're just creating that connection and putting yourself out there. But like a lot of virtual assistants or online business owners, they're within groups. There's a lot of real estate specific groups, some that are specifically for transaction coordinator and some that are a hybrid between real estate agents themselves and service providers. So you kind of have to find which ones you can join, because there are also real estate groups that are specific to only agents. And you have to basically prove that you're either licensed or a part of a brokerage. And so they don't allow service providers, and that's okay too. So there's a little bit of all of it out there.
I've got a couple questions, and they may be related, they may not. So I'll let you decide how you handle them.
Okay.
Do all real estate agents need a transaction coordinator?
Could all real estate agents benefit from a TC? Yes. Do they all need one? No. Do they all need help and assistance? Yes. So let me say that again. So if an agent is brand new and just starting out, they might need more of a virtual assistant to help them get their marketing up and running. And they might need help, especially if you're the expert, they might need help getting their business off the ground with, if you already have email templates, if you already have communication strategies and things like that, you can really help a brand new agent like streamline and get their business started very quickly. But if they're brand new and they're not bringing in a lot of transactions, odds are they have the time and the availability to see that transaction through themselves. Plus, I would also say that agent, they're new, they need that practice of knowing how that transaction transpires. But once they grow and once you kind of get, there's like a 3 to 5 year hump, I would say, because that's when you get that snowball rolling of repeat clients in real estate. So someone you help buy or sell in the first year, or let's say they bought in the first year, they might be ready to sell their condo. Maybe their job took them somewhere else or their family upgraded or whatever. They're not going to call you for until about 3 to 5 years from then. But once that snowball effect happens, that's when agents get repeat to clients and new clients. That's when a TC could really be beneficial, probably within that 5-year mark, give or take a couple years.
So specifically, what is the value that a TC provides? Saving them time, obviously, but
Yes.
you want to elaborate
Saving
on that?
them time. It also it takes a lot off their plate in regards to, sometimes agents are running around and their brain is in a million different places, especially if they're women and moms or caretakers for their parents as well. Like, they have a lot going on. So just knowing that that piece is taken care of, the paperwork, the scheduling, the communication, that's a huge relief when they find a good transaction coordinator, that they don't have to even worry about it, because all of a sudden they see the emails come through or they see something show up on their calendar, and it's that relief knowing that it's done, because they are thinking about, this new listing popped up. It might be a good fit for this XYZ buyer, or this inspection's coming up. Well, now there's a foundational problem. So now I need to call someone for that. Their mind is thinking about a lot of other things. So yes, you're freeing up their time, but you're also freeing up the space in their brain to continue to grow their business and serve their buyers and sellers well, which will then bring in more buyers and sellers. So really, you're helping them save their time, but they can then take that time and allocate it into other places to growth, like growth of their business.
Got a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
The first is, are there any rules around transaction coordination work? Like, can I live in Kansas and be a TC for you as a realtor in Nebraska? Like, what do I need to be aware of in terms of industry rules if I'm going to start working as a TC?
Absolutely. So one of my most commonly asked questions is, do I have to be licensed? I'll start there. The simple answer to that is no, but you do need to be aware every single state has different state laws when it comes to real estate. So I do know, again, I used the example of California earlier. They have to have a certification. Other states do not. Some states, depending on your role, it will not come out and distinctly say, you have to have a license to be a TC. It won't say that, but it will say someone who is unlicensed can't talk to the opposing agent. Well, that really hinders your job, or things of that nature. Now, the vast majority of states in the United States, you do not have to be licensed, and you can communicate and fully do your job. And no, it is not location based. So if you live in California and you don't want to get certified, you can serve agents in Nebraska and Iowa. That's not a problem. Yep. You just have to abide by the state laws where that agent is licensed.
Where the agent's licensed.
Where
Okay.
the agent is licensed,
Right.
not where you live.
Any other weird rules we need to know before we move on?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Probably, but chapter 2. My last question is, what do you need to get started as a TC? So if someone's watching this and they're like, I mean, I'm interested in real estate. I don't want to get licensed. This sounds like work I could do. I'm a great communicator. I'm super detail oriented. What do they actually like physically need, or what software programs, or what would be helpful for them to actually begin?
Honestly, you could start your entire TC business using Google Workspace. You can track your transactions using a Google Sheet. A lot of times in the real estate world, they'll call it almost a digital whiteboard. So you can have all your columns that has who the buyer is, who the seller is, the price, when are the contingency dates, and things like that. So you can have the entire transactions created on a Google Sheet. You then use your Google Calendar to keep track of all those contingency dates. You can create different layers if you need to amongst clients. And really, you need a great way to communicate and keep track of things. That's really all you need to get started.
That's awesome.
It's very simple.
Yes, I love that. And you actually have a free gift for everybody who's interested and wants to get started. It's called your foundation kit. So this is going to help people apply their own knowledge to being able to serve the real estate niche. Tell us a little bit more about what they can expect if they go download that.
Absolutely. So if you go to www.righthandofrealtor.com/free mama, because we love the free mamas, you can get a copy of my foundation kit. And essentially it focuses on both transaction coordination and virtual assistance, but it will have a resource in there that's 60 plus services you can offer to real estate agents. So if maybe like TC's not your jam, you're like, that sounds intimidating, contracts, amendments, addendums, I don't even know what that means. There are VA services, general admin, marketing, bookkeeping, even, that are on that list. But it also goes into detail of frequently asked questions in regards to transaction coordinators and some of the things that we talked about on this interview. It also helps you get started. Now, you can learn a lot of the things of getting started from the free mama as well, but it just is a matter of taking into consideration, how do you want to run your business? How do you want to get started? Where do you want to host your communication in your calendar and things like that? Softwares that you might want to consider or you might need as you continue to grow. So it just is a really great foundation kit and starter kit to really navigate the real estate industry if it's intriguing to you.
That's awesome. And of course, you have an entire program to support aspiring TCs and VAs who want to work with real estate agents as well. I just love the name of your business so much, which your program is named the same thing. It's called Right Hand of a Realtor. And this will explain to you guys A to Z everything you need to know. I'm assuming they can expect tools, templates, all the like done for you, done with you stuff, getting set up and started a breeze. Anything you want to add there?
Gosh, if you join the Right Hand of a Realtor, I have a handful of paid opportunities. So if you love what you see on the foundation kit and you're intrigued even further, I do have paid training programs. And yes, I have what they call a vault. I have email templates. That digital whiteboard I talked about, I have a template for that. I have, oh my goodness, so many things that are just done for you, marketing items, how to network with clients effectively online. I even have some who are like, you know what, my kids go to school and I'm free during the day. So I have even a list that I provide people of ways you can support real estate agents that's not virtual, that you can be very helpful. So whatever your skills and past experience are, we can take care of you in serving the real estate niche or teaching you how.
That's so awesome. And you can find a link to go explore all of those opportunities down below this video, as well as your foundation kit. Brittany, is there anything we did not cover about TC work that you just can't in this video without sharing?
I would say the last thing I want to leave is just that all real estate agents in some capacity could use assistance, especially after the last 2 years. The real estate market with the really low rate and then the really low inventory, they're extremely burnt out, like a lot of different industries, but they're just very burnt out. And so anything you have to offer and be that bridge so that when they get home at the end of the day from doing showings and inspections, if they could not get on their computer for 2 to 3 hours, or if they could not miss their kiddos' softball or baseball game, or if they could even just have those 2 to 3 hours back in their life to do a little more self-care, exercise, the hobbies they enjoy, that right there, that's really the biggest benefit that you can offer real estate agents in regards to helping them give them their time back. And by giving them their time back, they could attend more networking events and grow their business even further, however they want to spend that time. So that's really what I want to leave off on, is that in some capacity, they can all use help of some kind.
I love your passion for real estate. I've gotten to hear you speak in person about this industry, and you are just doing such a favor to all the realtors out there who do need help. So if this was interesting to you, again, make sure you hit like, talk to us down in the comments. If you have any questions, we can make sure Brittany gets back to you as well. And then check out those 2 links so that you can get your free gift and explore ways to work with and learn from Brittany. Brittany, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
We'll see you next time.